I'm going to use a comment from one of my videos to articulate one of the points that I've been trying to make. So one of my earlier videos had talked about chess prodigies, but I had used the word genius instead of prodigy. And the reason that I had done this is the YouTube video that I had interacted with prior to this that had kind of formulated that thought was titled Chess Genius instead of prodigy. So when I was making the video and I was articulating the point of a title, chess prodigy, and had used the word chess genius instead as a replacement because you can substitute the words. Many people do. And it's a more common type of word to use genius than prodigy. Not everybody knows the word prodigy. So in the comment, the person had made the distinction of memorization in chess versus intelligence. And the cross wires of our communication immediately right there become miscommunication because his mentality was stuck on the word genius and what that means, which is the things that I've been pointing out in certain videos about how you can have biased towards words so that when a person is trying to articulate a thought, you're not hearing exactly what they're saying because of your pre-bias to certain words and how people work. We're not walking dictionaries, especially me. I don't use the dictionary term of everything. I'm a very generalized type of person. Most of my stuff is like, I'm not a book smart type of person as far as I'm an observant type of smart person. I've articulated these type of things from watching, listening, and these type of things, not directly from studying everything. So the way that I'm articulating is not going to be that book smart type of way of articulating things. Also, I have a learning disability that can kind of contributes to how my videos go down. But my point here is that whole video wasn't about an intelligence thing. It was pointing out a whole different thing about how you can understand different things through things that you already know. This is one of the things that I have done to learn the world. And now maybe I do conflate a lot of things. That's part of being human. We're not perfect. We don't all know anything. And if you believe that you know everything, you're probably wrong, most likely. So my point here is just that things can be a lot more complex than we think they are. The comment completely threw me off guard because my brain didn't even think about the word that I had used, genius, instead of see, I forgot the word again. Chess prodigy. And so my point here being that communication isn't the direct thing that you think it is. You can have a conversation with somebody and not be articulated or heard the way that you think that you are communicating it. That's one of the most beautiful things about communication is that you can have two different ideas, and the more that you're willing to go down that rabbit hole and try to understand each other, the more that you can expand ideas. And now I don't mind looking stupid anytime, so I'm willing to be that person to raise their hand and try to take a guess at something that I'm not 100% sure of and be told I'm wrong. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being wrong. Again, I'm not trying to get people to think exactly like me. I'm trying to get people to think for themselves. Everybody knows the world's off. Look at it for yourself. We can fix it. That's how things work. What system has ever been developed that was perfect from development that didn't take people looking at the flaws and adjusting for the flaws? Looking at what we have going on now, an economic-based system doesn't work on the fact, I know I switched here, it is what it is. An economic-based system doesn't work on the fact that we're destroying the system itself that keeps us alive, taking out trees and stuff like that counterbalance to give us the oxygen, that also have an effect on our weather, that have all of these mass effects, and we're thinking too small term, too dopamine-driven society versus a serotonin-driven society. It's that small instant gratification versus that long-term satisfaction. Then the type of chemicals in your brain that you can think back about doing that act and still get more chemicals out of it, happy chemicals out of your brain. And that's more helping others based, need-driven. That's more that kind of chemical. And you can get that kind of society by just switching our mentality. There's so many people right now that are aware that things aren't working out properly and how to fix the system as far as individually what they need to do on their own. But it's not, that systems don't work that way. You can't just individually fix the system. Now, yes, it takes every individual to do that, to fix the system. So there's that paradox there of every individual has to work on it for it to get there. But a single individual working on it without everybody working on it too doesn't really get us anywhere. So even if there is a mass scale, and eventually it will teeter-totter where more people won't be able to fit into the system. Again, my point of the economic system is there always has to be somebody that you're working off of the backs of. There's no amount of money that can be given to everybody in the world where there's no work that has to be done. There's always going to be in the economic system people that have to work, because that's just the way the world works. Everybody, the world cannot just go from nature to what we have without humans putting in effort to change it and work with it. However, we can have a system where we understand that that effort is required, and that there is so many people and so little effort that actually needs to be put in for the amount of people that they are, that if people weren't trying to work the system to be on top and not the bottom, and tried to work for a more not even playing field, because at the end of the day, we're all different. We all want different things. There are always going to be somebody that want a mansion. And at the end of the day, I don't care. And I don't think most people care. If you want a mansion, you want to clean that shit and you want to take care of that shit, go do you. But not everybody wants that. A majority of people just want peace and happiness, and that's not something that can be acquired in a system that is hierarchical, you know the fucking word. That has to be in a system where we're looking more for an equity among people instead of this complete equality. At the end of the day, there are hippie ass people like me who don't mind working, who like nature and don't need a mansion, and would never fucking look to want a mansion, nor do they idolize that kind of lifestyle. And yeah, I think that's part of one of the reasons that make people a little shaky is the people that want the mansions and these type of things. Deep down, we know, like you know that you want those things not because you desire them personally, but because you want other people to look up to you in some type of way, or to think more grandly of you. And in the system that I'm talking about, if you want the mansion and things like that, then no, probably you're not going to get that like all respect, look at them kind of thing that you're trying to achieve from the system. But again, that's a false illusion. You don't actually get that when you have that there. Like, sure, there's people that are like, oh, I want a celebrity, I want their money, and and they're so hot and everything. But what of that is their personality? This is the exact thing that they struggle with when they end up with the fame and all of this, is that the things that everybody desires from them and wants about them are trivial things that any other person can have in that position, and not truly about them. So that becomes their struggle, is they still have those same base needs that other humans have, to just be needed, to be wanted, to be cared about as your own person, and not for what you have and what you can give. And so it's a dual-edged sword that if you just think logically about it, you can see it. People have been telling you since the creation of fucking building celebrities and people that have more, they've always been killing themselves, depressed as shit, and telling you it's not what it's cracked up to be, because you're not getting the base fundamental human needs met in that. So yeah, this whole thing just went on. That's how I roll. That's how my brain works. All over the place. It is what it is. I like to be transparent. I think that my transparency is a beauty of mine, even if others don't find it beautiful. I enjoy being bold enough to just be like, yeah, whatever. It is what it is. This is who I am. This is the weird things that I do, and take it or leave it. And I prefer to be that way, because if you don't like it, you can leave it. You don't have to be tricked by a false illusion because, wow, I like these little parts of her or whatever. You know up front that, like, oh, cool, there's certain things that I like and there's certain things that I don't like, and you can act accordingly. And that helps me align to my tribe and people better than trying to be liked or make people happy in that kind of artificial not caring about true happiness, but like there's a difference of happiness that's, I want to make you or the world happy, versus I don't like feeling uncomfortable about other people feeling uncomfortable, so I'm going to try to make you feel comfortable so I don't feel uncomfortable anymore. And that's something that people need to really kind of be aware of, is if you are uncomfortable with others being uncomfortable and your helping is coming from that position, you're not truly helping them as much as you're helping your nervous system. Your acts are more coming from your nervous system than your heart in that kind of way. I'm going to end it there because I think I've put a little too much heaviness in this one little video, because it wasn't intended to go that way, but that's how life goes. Sometimes you just got to roll with what flows, because sometimes it is about just flowing with what naturally is meant to be, and sometimes it's about being calculated in what's going to get not just you but everybody to the better path. Because I'm sorry to tell you, at the end of the day, the most selfish thing that you could do as a human being is want better for everybody else, because in a hierarchical system, the best that you can want is to climb to the top, and you have to be okay with just shitting on other people to be there. Versus if you want a world that's best for everybody, you can be happy and cool, and you're not shitting on anybody else, and everybody's happy, and people aren't sabotaging or doing any of these malicious things intentionally or unintentionally, because they're happy them fucking selves. So that we're going to be projecting happiness into the world, not negativity, the way that we're all projecting negativity right now, mostly because we have a very odd perspective of what reality is versus looking at reality and what reality really is. I've done this for a majority of my life, followed society and tried to figure these things out until it got to a point where I'm like, something's not right here. Let me just calculate for myself. Let me just figure it out. I'm not that dumb. Let me just try to figure this shit out for myself. And when I started to look at things for myself, I started seeing a whole different pattern. Does that mean I'm right? I don't fucking know. I'm a human. I'm just as leveled as you are on the playing field, regardless of my differences and skills and experiences being different than yours. We're still just human, all of us. We don't really know better than the next. But when you feel something to your core, you can share it, because that is probably helpful to somebody else, right? And I can have 1,000 people that dislike me and they're like, what the fucking whack job bitch, the whack job bitch, and only touch one person's soul and be like, yeah, listen, that helped me, and that's still going to be good enough for me. One, because I've kind of just had to combat with people being like, you're ridiculous my whole life. So all right, here I am. I'm ridiculous. It is what it is. That is who I am. I am who I am. Life is what it is. But also, I'm so much more comfortable with sitting in hell because I risked it all and did what I thought was going to get me to heaven, versus blindly following somebody else's lead that doesn't sit quite right with me straight to fucking hell because they were telling me that it was heaven. Like, I'm not stupid enough to ignore what's not sitting right with me, not enough to step back and try to recalculate before we step forward any further. Because if something's not sitting right with me, there's a fucking reason that it's not sitting right with me. Now, I may not calculate it right every time. I may calculate it wrong every time, but it doesn't mean that I'm not calculating something, because something is triggering that every time, whether it be not liking a food or whatever as soon as it touches my mouth and spitting it out, and then finding out later on that that I could have had an allergic reaction to that plant because it was a toxic type of plant or whatever. Those things I know to listen to, because what else is there to listen to besides that seed? What is the Bible talking about a seed? What how do I know that I hit people's core when I talk about these things if it wasn't true? And that's one of my biggest weapons, is knowing that I'm talking to a seed inside people and being like, yeah, listen, I'm talking to the seed. I don't really give a fuck about what your opinion is on it. These are for later. Most of the time when I talk to people, it's not something that's going to be right then and there implemented. It's something that's going to sit in the back of somebody's head until the right time and place that information is necessary, and then it's going to come to the forefront right then and there, because that's how the universe and the world works.